the orbital station Helios 9 never truly slept. Lights dimmed and brightened on schedules that matched no single species. Corridors hummed with life support systems, and voices in dozens of languages echoed through metal halls. It was the largest cooperative station humanity had ever been invited into, and that fact alone made many of the non-human residents nervous. Elias Ward had learned this within his first hour. He was human, an engineer by training, and according to the official exchange paperwork, remarkably unremarkable. That description suited him just fine.
Elias liked machines, quiet routines, and knowing where his tools were.
He did not like attention. Unfortunately, being human on Helios 9 meant attention followed him anyway, as he rolled his small cargo case down the corridor toward his assigned quarters. More than a few alien eyes tracked him. Some stared openly. Others pretended not to look, which somehow felt worse. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and while they were officially labeled non-hostile and cooperative, that label came with many footnotes. Humans were unpredictable. Humans bonded strangely. Humans had a habit of surviving things they were not supposed to. Elias reached his door and pressed his palm to the scanner. The panel blinked, hesitated, then unlocked with a soft chime. He stepped inside and stopped. The room was small, as expected. 2 sleeping platforms were built into opposite walls. Storage units lined the corners. A single shared workspace sat beneath a wide viewport that showed a slow drift of stars. What Elias had not expected was the alien already standing inside. She was shorter than him, thin-limbed, with pale blue-gray skin that reflected the overhead light. Her eyes were large and dark, set slightly wider than human eyes, and she had fine ridges along the sides of her head instead of hair. She wore a simple station uniform and held a data tablet close to her chest. She turned the moment he entered. They stared at each other. "Oh," Elias said intelligently. The alien clicked softly, then straightened.
"You are the human assigned to this unit?"
Her voice was calm, clear, and carefully controlled. It carried a slight harmonic echo, as if 2 tones spoke at once. "Yeah," Elias said. "I'm Elias. Guess we're roommates." Her eyes flicked briefly to the door behind him, then back to his face. "I am Grafala." Elias smiled, friendly and automatic. "Nice to meet you." Grafala paused, just for a fraction of a second. Her pupils widened, then narrowed again. Acknowledged. An awkward silence followed. Elias shifted his weight and gestured vaguely around the room. I can take whichever side works best for you." "I have already selected optimal placement," Crithala replied. She pointed to the sleeping platform closest to the viewport. "You will occupy the opposite unit. Works for me," Elias said easily. He set his cargo case down and began unpacking, humming quietly under his breath. Tools came out first, then a few personal items. A worn book, a small photo frame, a mug with faded lettering. Crithala watched him the entire time. She did not pretend otherwise. Her gaze tracked each movement, each object placed on the shelf. When Elias noticed, he only smiled again. "First time living with a human?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Same here," he joked. She did not react to the humor, but her fingers tightened slightly around her tablet. Crithala was a member of the Trelkesh Collective, a species known for rigid social structures and deeply ingrained instinctive behaviors. They were efficient, intelligent, and extremely cautious. They did not form casual attachments. Bonds were deliberate, rare, and permanent, which was why her assignment to share living space with a human had already made her uneasy. Humans had no clear dominance rituals, no scent markers, no visible territorial signals. They shared space freely, spoke openly, and touched objects without permission. This alone made them difficult to categorize. What disturbed Crithala more was how calm the humans seemed. He moved through the shared space as if it already belonged to both of them. Not in a claiming way, but in a trusting one. He turned his back to her while unpacking. He left his belongings exposed. He hummed. These were not behaviors of a cautious species. "You are not concerned?" she said. Elias glanced back. "About? Sharing territory with an unfamiliar species?" He shrugged. "We'll figure it out. Station rules are pretty clear, and I'm not much of a problem, roommate." Kurthala processed that. "You assume mutual cooperation?" "Yeah," Elias said. "That usually works." That answer did not make sense to her. Cooperation was negotiated, enforced, and monitored. It did not simply work. She made a note on her tablet. Over the next several hours, station life continued around them. Elias attended orientation meetings and returned with a nutrient pack, which he offered to Kurthala without thinking. "Want one?" he asked. She stared at the package. "You are offering me sustenance." "Yeah," I grabbed extra, without request. Sure, her species did not share food casually. Food exchange was a bonding act, tied to trust and obligation. She accepted the pack slowly, her movements careful. "Thank you," she said. "No problem." The words were simple. The meaning was not. That night cycle, Elias slept easily. Kurthala did not. She remained awake, listening to his steady breathing. Humans entered unconscious states with alarming vulnerability. No guard posture. No awareness of threats. It was reckless. Or confident. The next day, things began to change. Elias woke to find the room subtly different. His tools were neatly organized by function. The mug had been moved closer to the food storage. His book sat beside the sleeping platform, placed at a precise angle. "Huh," he murmured. "Did I do that?" "No," Kurthala said from the workspace. "Oh. Thanks." She stiffened.
"You approve?" "Sure. Looks cleaner."
Approval registered. Her posture relaxed slightly. As days passed, Kurthala began making more adjustments. She optimized walking paths through the room. She adjusted lighting levels when Elias worked late. She positioned herself closer to the door when other station residents passed by. Elias noticed, but only vaguely. She also began accompanying him. When he went to maintenance decks, she followed. When he attended briefings, she sat nearby. When other species approached him with questions about human engineering, Kurthala stood just a little too close. "You don't have to come everywhere," Elias said one cycle, gently. "I prefer to," she replied. "Okay," he said, and left it at that. To Kurthala, that acceptance was significant. No challenge, no correction, just allowance. In Trelkish instinctual logic, allowance equaled consent. By the end of the first week, observers had started noticing. A Varelian diplomat paused outside the room one cycle and quietly asked the station aide, "Is the human under protection?" The aide checked the logs. No official designation. Then why does the Trelkesh remain with him at all times? No one had a good answer. Elias, meanwhile, was just trying to finish recalibrating a power conduit without burning his fingers. When a pair of long-limbed aliens argued too close behind him, Kurthala stepped between them without a word. Her presence was enough. The aliens backed away, unsettled. Elias looked up. "Everything okay?" "Resolved. Thanks." Again, simple words. Again, weight she did not fully understand, but instinctively accepted. That night, Kurthala submitted a private report to her superiors. Living in close proximity to a human resulted in unexpected behavioral responses. The human exhibited non-aggressive social behaviors that triggered protective instincts. Subject displayed no awareness of these effects. Recommend further observation? She paused, then added one more line. "Human Elias Ward is now considered within my personal responsibility." She did not question that conclusion. It felt correct, Across the station, unseen systems flagged subtle shifts in social patterns. Humans were not dominating. They were not demanding. They were simply being themselves. And that, quietly, was changing everything. When Elias returned to the room that cycle, he found Kurthala standing near the door, arms folded behind her back. "Hey," he said. "Everything good?" "Yes," she replied. She stepped aside so he could enter first. Elias did not notice the significance of that gesture, but the station did, and somewhere deep in alien databases, new warnings were being written. Slowly, carefully, and with growing concern. Humans did not conquer space, they lived in it. And others, without realizing when it happened, began arranging their worlds around them. Life on Helios 9 followed careful schedules, but human Elias Ward did not. He worked when systems needed repair, slept when tired, and spoke to anyone who spoke to him first. This alone made him an irregular element on the station, but what followed him everywhere was even more unusual. Kurthala. At first, station residents assumed she was simply assigned as his cultural guide. That explanation stopped making sense after the third day in a row when she was seen standing outside a maintenance bay for 6 hours, doing nothing except watching the door Elias had gone through. She did not sit. She did not speak. She waited. Inside the bay, Elias was knee-deep in cables, trying to stabilize a power relay that had been flickering since dawn cycle. He muttered to himself, wiped grease on his sleeve, and leaned back to check his work. "You're doing that backwards," came a voice from behind him. He turned. Kurthala stood just inside the bay entrance. "Oh," he said. "You're right. I forgot this system routes counterflow." She nodded once. "I observed the schematic. Thanks for catching it." Again, that word. "Thanks." Kurthala felt the familiar tightening in her chest cavity, the instinctive response she had been logging but not fully reporting. Gratitude acknowledgement strengthened social bonds. Repeated exposure reinforced protective priority. She said nothing, only stepped closer so she could see his work better. A nearby maintenance drone paused its movement. Its sensors adjusted, then recalibrated, flagging the proximity pattern as statistically abnormal. Elias finished the repair and stood, stretching his arms. "All set. Want to grab something to eat?" "Yes," Kurthala answered immediately. She did not consider whether she was hungry. They walked through the station together, Elias chatting casually about human food preferences and Earth gravity. Kurthala listened, memorizing details. Humans spoke freely of their homeworlds, their families, their failures. This openness would be considered reckless among her people. To her, it felt like trust. At the food exchange hub, Elias greeted several other species by name. He smiled, waved, asked how things were going. Kurthala noticed how often others leaned closer to hear him better, how conversations shifted around his presence. She positioned herself slightly in front of him when a tall armored species stepped too close. The armored alien noticed. Its crest flared in irritation. "You block shared space," it said. "He's with me," Kurthala replied calmly. The alien paused. Then it stepped back. Elias, distracted by a screen listing nutrient options, noticed nothing. Kurthala's internal state stabilized. Threat reduced. Over the next cycles, her behavior became more consistent. She woke when Elias woke. She rested when he did. She adjusted her schedule to match his without conscious decision. She also began marking territory, not with scent or physical markers, but with presence. She occupied seats beside him before others could. She answered questions directed at him when she judged them unnecessary. She stood at his shoulder during station briefings, eyes scanning the room. Station analysts noticed a pattern. Trelkesh subject displays exclusive proximity behavior, one report noted. Human subject remains unaware. Another added, recommend evaluation. This may escalate, but no protocol existed for this situation. No one wanted to accuse a cooperative species of improper conduct, especially when no hostility was present. Meanwhile, Elias simply thought his roommate was very dedicated.
"She's kind of intense," he said during a casual human-only call, "but helpful."
I think she just likes structure. The human coordinator frowned. Has she shown aggression?
No, not at all.
Just protective, I guess? The coordinator made a note. Humans had a long history of misjudging protective. The turning point came during a routine systems check near the station's central transit ring. Elias was running diagnostics when a sudden pressure fluctuation caused alarms to blare. Lights flashed. Emergency shutters began to descend. "Everyone clear the area!" a mechanical voice announced. Elias swore and moved toward a manual override panel. If those shutters lock, half the ring loses power. Kurthala followed him, her pulse accelerating. "This area is unstable," she said. "Yeah, I know, but I can fix it." She stepped in front of him. "Risk is unacceptable." He stopped short. "Hey, it's okay. This is literally my job." Her eyes darkened. The instinct surged stronger than before. The idea of him entering danger triggered a sharp response, bordering on panic. "No," she said firmly. The word echoed louder than intended. Elias blinked. Kurthala? For a moment, neither moved. The alarms continued. Other beings fled the area. Then Kurthala stepped aside, just enough to let him pass, but she stayed close, closer than ever before. "Proceed," she said. "I will monitor." He gave her a small smile. "Appreciate it." That smile sealed it. She watched as he worked quickly, hands steady despite the noise and flashing lights. He trusted his skills. He trusted that someone was watching his back. When the system stabilized and the alarms ceased, relief washed through her with almost painful intensity. Elias exhaled. That could have been bad. She nodded. "Threat neutralized. Thanks for having my back." Those words. Later that cycle, Kurthala's superior contacted her. "Your reports indicate escalating attachment behaviors," the elder said. "Clarify your intent." Kurthala considered the question carefully. "I am fulfilling responsibility," she replied. "You are not assigned guardianship. I assumed it." A pause. "On what authority?" She searched for the correct answer. None fit cleanly. "On observed value," she said finally. The elder was silent for a long moment. "You understand the implications of such a bond," the elder said. "It is not easily reversed." "Yes? Does the human understand?" Kurthala hesitated. "No, that is concerning." She tilted her head. "He has not rejected it." The elder ended the transmission without further comment. On the station, rumors began to spread. Some species avoided Elias entirely, unwilling to provoke a Trelkesh. Others tested boundaries, approaching him with deliberate casualness. Each time, Kurthala intervened. Not with force. With presence, positioning, quiet authority. The station's social equilibrium shifted subtly. Elias noticed the change only when a fellow engineer spoke up. "Hey, man," the alien said awkwardly. "Is your roommate guarding you?" Elias laughed. "What? No, she's just cautious." The engineer didn't look convinced. That night, Elias found his room rearranged again. This time, the changes were unmistakable. His sleeping platform had been moved closer to Kurthala's. The door-side space was clearly hers. His belongings were grouped within a defined area. He scratched his head. Did we get new safety guidelines? Kurthala stood near the door. "No." "Then why move stuff?" She looked at him directly. "This arrangement increases response efficiency.
Response to what? Threats. He stared at her, then chuckled. You really don't need to worry that much. I do, she said. Something in her tone made him pause. Why? He asked gently. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Words failed her. Her instincts did not translate easily into human language. Because, she said finally, you are important. Elias felt a small, unexpected warmth at that. That's kind of you. Kind, again, he did not understand. Across Helios 9, data analysts updated their models. Human proximity correlated with increased alien loyalty behaviors. This was not coercion, not influence. It was something else, an unintended gravity. Kurthala stood watch as Elias slept, alert and steady. She did not see herself as possessive. She saw herself as correct, and as station lights dimmed and stars drifted past the viewport, one truth became increasingly clear to those paying attention. Humans did not need to ask for protection. Others offered it. Whether humanity understood the cost of that devotion was another matter entirely. The station council chamber was not meant to feel tense. It was designed for discussion, negotiation, and balance between species. Soft lighting adjusted to each race's visual needs, and the air was tuned to a careful mix of gases. Yet on this cycle, tension sat heavy in the room. Representatives from 12 species were present, along with observers and analysts. At the center of the discussion was a single human. Elias Ward stood near the entrance, hands behind his back, waiting patiently. He had been told there was a minor concern regarding station safety protocols. He assumed it had something to do with the transit ring incident. Kurthala stood beside him. She had not been asked to attend. She came anyway. Several council members noticed immediately. The Trellcache is not scheduled to speak, a thin-bodied delegate said. She is with me, Elias replied automatically. The words left his mouth before he thought about them. Kurthala's posture straightened, her presence sharpened. The council chair paused. Human Elias Ward, are you aware of why you have been summoned? Not really, Elias said honestly. But I'm happy to clear things up. That calm response unsettled more than one delegate. The chair gestured for the meeting to begin. Reports appeared in the air between them. Data charts, behavioral maps, proximity logs. We have observed significant social disruptions centered around your presence, the chair said, specifically involving your cohabitation with the Trellcache, known as Kurthala. Elias glanced at the projections, then at Kurthala. Is this about her walking with me? Because I didn't think that was against the rules. It is not, the chair said, but her behavior has escalated beyond standard cultural adaptation.
Kurthala spoke calmly.
I have not violated any station law. That is correct, the chair admitted, which is why this situation is complicated. A Varelian observer leaned forward. Trellcache bonds are not casual. They are territorial and enduring. Elias frowned. Wait, bonds? The word echoed uncomfortably. Thala did not look at him. The chair continued. Your species forms social connections without formal structure. You share space, food, personal time. To several species, these behaviors are interpreted as bonding rituals. Matpero. Elias felt a slow chill. You're saying people think I'm claiming them? Not intentionally, the chair said, but effect matters. Kurthala finally turned to him. Her eyes were steady. You did not correct the bond, she said simply. I didn't know there was one, Elias replied. A low murmur spread through the chamber. The Varelian observer tapped the display. The concern is not just personal. Others have begun aligning themselves with humans in similar ways. Another delegate added,
Protective behaviors. Voluntary risk assumption. Voluntary risk assumption. Elias swallowed. I never asked anyone to do that. We know, the chair said. That is what concerns us. The council chamber doors opened suddenly. A security officer entered. Tense. We have an incident. The chair stiffened. Explain. A trade dispute escalated in Dock 7. A human was present. Elias's heart jumped. Who? Technician Alvarez. Before anyone could stop her, Kurtala moved. She was out the door and down the corridor with startling speed. Wait! Elias shouted, then ran after her. The council erupted in confusion. Dock 7 was chaos when they arrived. Crates lay overturned. Voices shouted in overlapping languages. Two heavily built aliens stood near the center, arguing loudly with a human technician backed against a railing. Alvarez looked terrified. Kurthala did not slow. She stepped between them and the human, her posture sharp and commanding. Stand down, she said. One of the aliens laughed. This is not your matter, Trelkesh. It is, she replied. The alien moved closer. That was a mistake. Kurthala's stance shifted. She activated a low-frequency signal, one that resonated deep in Trelkesh neural pathways and triggered instinctive threat recognition in nearby species. The air seemed to vibrate. Security officers froze. The alien stepped back, suddenly uncertain. Elias reached her side. Kurthala, it's okay. I'm here. Her head tilted slightly toward him. The signal stopped. Alvarez stared. What just happened? Let's get you out of here, Elias said quickly. They escorted the human away as station security finally regained control of the area. Later, in a quiet corridor, Elias faced Kurthala. That was intense, he said. They intended harm, she replied. They were arguing, Elias said. That happens. It was escalating. He rubbed his face. You can't just threaten people. I can, she said. I did. He looked at her, really looked, and saw something he hadn't before. Not just caution, not just loyalty. Fear. Fear of losing him. Kurthala, he said softly. You don't have to protect me like that. She stiffened. I do. Why? She struggled for words again. Her species did not explain instincts. They acted on them. Because you are mine, she said at last. The words hung between them. Elias felt a sharp mix of emotions, surprise, discomfort, and concern. I'm not owned, he said carefully. Her eyes widened. Alarm flashed across her features. I do not seek ownership, she said quickly. I seek responsibility. That still doesn't work like that for humans. She processed this slowly. Then explain. So he did. He explained friendship, choice. Boundaries. That caring did not mean control. That protection had to be asked for. She listened without interruption. When he finished, she asked, If I withdraw, will you be harmed? I don't think so, he said. And if I am, I'll ask for help. That answer troubled her. Across the station, the council reconvened urgently. This confirms it, one delegate said. Humans trigger protective bonding without realizing it. Another added, They are a social hazard. No, the chair corrected. They are a social force. The data showed it clearly now. Humans did not dominate through strength or technology. They inspired loyalty through openness. An old Trelkesh proverb surfaced in the archives. Beware the quiet bond. It outlasts fear. Kurthala stood alone later that cycle, staring out the viewport. Elias slept behind her. She replayed his words again and again. Choice. Boundaries. She had crossed one without knowing. For the first time since meeting him, she stepped away from the door. It felt wrong. It felt dangerous, but it was correct. In the council chamber, a final decision was drafted. Human integration protocols would be revised, shared living spaces restricted, cultural warnings issued, because if a single unaware human could destabilize social order simply by being kind, then humanity's presence in the galaxy was far more powerful than anyone had predicted. Elias slept on, unaware that he had just changed interstellar policy. Carthala watched him from a distance, learning something new and difficult. Protecting a human was easy. Letting them choose was much harder. The changes on Helios 9 did not happen loudly. There were no alarms, no announcements that echoed through the station. Instead, they arrived quietly, wrapped in polite language and official notices. New guidelines appeared on shared terminals, revised housing rules, updated cultural interaction advisories. None of them mentioned Elias Ward by name, but many eyes turned toward him anyway. Elias noticed the shift almost immediately. Doors that once stayed open now closed a little faster when he approached. Conversations paused when he entered common areas. Some species nodded politely but kept their distance. Others watched him with something close to caution. Carthala noticed everything. She stood farther away from him now, just as he had asked. She did not follow him into every corridor. She did not sit beside him unless invited. She did not rearrange the room anymore. To Elias, this felt like success, boundaries respected, balance restored. To Carthala, it felt like restraint against instinct. She monitored him from a distance, careful not to cross the invisible line he had drawn. But every time someone else stood too close, every time a voice rose in anger near him, her muscles tightened. She did nothing. That was the hardest part. One cycle later, a delegation arrived. They were not scheduled. Their vessel docked under emergency clearance, and their presence caused immediate concern. The species was known across trade routes for aggressive negotiation tactics and little patience for station rules. Elias was in a systems lab when the alert came through. "Unscheduled delegation entering Central Ring," the announcement said. "All non-essential personnel remain clear." Elias frowned. "That's not good." A nearby technician shook their head. "Those guys don't care who they push around." Elias hesitated, then shut down his console. "I should check the power routing near the docks. If they overload..." "Don't," the technician said sharply. "Security will handle it." Elias nodded, but unease settled in his chest. Carthala felt it too. She found him in the corridor moments later. "You're avoiding the docks," she said. "I was told to," Elias replied. "That is wise." He glanced at her. "You okay?" Yes. It was not a lie. It was just incomplete. The delegation made demands almost immediately. Exclusive access to resources, priority repairs, reduced oversight. Their voices carried through the station, loud and confident. Security escorts stayed tense. Then one of them noticed the humans. It started with looks. Bull. Then comments. Then a deliberate shoulder check against a human courier. Elias saw it happen from across the hall. Before he could think, he moved. "Hey!" he said calmly, stepping between them. "No need for that." The alien loomed over him. "Move?" Elias held his ground. Station rules apply to everyone. Around them, people froze. Carthala felt the restraint snap. She was there instantly, her presence sharp enough to cut through the tension. "Step back," she said, voice low. The alien laughed. Or what? The answer came from behind. A Varelian dockworker stepped forward, then another. Then a heavily armored species Elias barely recognized. They positioned themselves subtly around him, not touching, not threatening, but unmistakably aligned. The delegation alien's laughter died. Security rushed in, breaking the moment apart, but the damage was done. Across Helios 9, Something shifted. The council convened an emergency session.
This is precisely what we feared, one delegate said.
Humans attract allegiance. They inspire it, another corrected. It is destabilizing, a third argued.
Other species are choosing sides.
The chair remained silent, reviewing footage of the dock incident. Humans standing calmly. Aliens stepping in without command. No coercion.
No orders, just choice.
Meanwhile, Elias sat in his quarters, shaken. I didn't mean for that to happen, he said quietly. Kurthala stood near the wall, hands clasped. You acted to prevent harm. Yeah, but now people think I'm some kind of rally point. You are, she said. He looked at her. That's not what I want. I know. She meant it. That night, station security requested Elias's presence, not as a suspect, as a consultant. They wanted him to explain human behavior, why humans intervened without authority, why others responded. Elias did his best. We don't like seeing people pushed around, he said simply. And when someone stands up, others realize they can too. The security chief studied him. You do not command them. No. You do not reward them. No, yet they follow. Elias spread his hands helplessly. I guess people just trust us? That word echoed through the chamber. Trust. Later, Kurthala was summoned by her own people. You are losing control of the bond, the elder said. I am respecting his will, she replied. That weakens you. No, Kurthala said. It strengthens him. The elder regarded her carefully. You are changing? Yes. The elder did not object. The delegation was eventually escorted off the station under strict conditions. No violence occurred. No force was used. But everyone remembered who stood where. The revised protocols went further. Humans were reassigned to private quarters, unless they requested otherwise. Cultural briefings became mandatory before any prolonged interaction. Warnings were issued, subtle but clear. Do not mistake human kindness for weakness. Elias received the notice last. He read it twice. They're separating us, he said quietly. Kurthala nodded. They believe it will reduce influence. Will it? She considered. No. He smiled faintly. Good. When the relocation time came, Elias packed his things slowly. The room felt larger now, empty. Kurthala stood at the door, watching. I didn't mean to cause trouble, he said. You did not, she replied. You revealed truth? He paused. Will we still talk? If you wish. I do. That was enough. As he left, she did not follow. But across the station, others did, not physically, in thought, in loyalty. The council watched the data stream shift again, and this time, they understood. Humans did not need to stay close to influence others. They carried something with them. But an idea. That standing up was simple. That protection could be chosen. That power did not always need to announce itself. Helios 9 returned to order, but it was a different order now. Quieter, watchful. Elias entered his new quarters alone. Somewhere not far away, Kurthala stood at a viewport, feeling the pull of distance and resisting it. Not because she had to, because she chose to. And across the stars, the galaxy began adjusting to a dangerous realization. Humanity was not claiming space. Space was slowly, willingly aligning with humanity. Helios 9 felt quieter after the changes. Not empty, not broken, just careful. People still moved through the corridors, machines still hummed, and trade still flowed. But there was a new awareness in every interaction. Humans were no longer ignored. They were also no longer approached without thought. Elias Ward adjusted to his new quarters slowly. The room was larger, cleaner, and entirely his. No shared space. No need to compromise. On paper, it was an improvement. In reality, it felt lonely. He unpacked his tools, placed his book on the shelf, and set the old mug near the food unit. The room stayed exactly as he left it. Nothing shifted when he slept. Nothing waited by the door. He told himself this was fine. Across the station, Kirthala also adjusted. She was assigned new duties, new patrol routes, new observation tasks. None of them placed her near Elias. That was intentional. She followed the rules. She did not seek him out. She did not watch his movements through station feeds. She did not stand near his door. But she listened. And what she heard disturbed her. Reports began arriving from other stations. Similar patterns. Humans arriving. Humans sharing space. Humans helping without being asked. Then loyalty followed. Not aggressive loyalty, but not blind devotion. Choice. Entire crews adjusted schedules to match humans. Trade partners refused deals that excluded human allies. Security teams hesitated before acting against humans, even when rules technically allowed it. The galactic network struggled to classify the phenomenon. It was not mind control. It was not manipulation. It was influence without command. The council called one last session. This time, Elias was invited. He stood before them again, calmer than before. Tired, maybe, but steady. "We are reaching a decision point," the chair said. "Humanity's integration cannot continue without understanding the consequences." Elias nodded. "I agree," a delegate asked. "If we restrict human movement further, will this stop?" "No," Elias said honestly. "It'll probably make it worse." Explain when you isolate people for being trusted. Others notice. They don't stop caring. They get angry. The room went silent.
"You're saying humans cause unrest simply by existing?" another delegate said.
Elias shrugged. "We don't mean to, but we don't stop being who we are either."
The chair leaned forward. "What are you exactly, Alice?"
Thought for a moment. "We're social," he said. "We help. We mess up. We apologize. We don't think that makes us special." Several delegates exchanged looks. "That," the chair said slowly, "may be the problem." The council adjourned without a vote. That night, Helios 9 received an emergency signal, not from within, from the edge of known space. A frontier station had gone dark. Communications were cut. Trade routes blocked. The species responsible was known for expansion through force. They had issued an ultimatum: withdraw all non-aligned species or face occupation. The room filled with noise as the council reviewed the data. Military response options appeared. None were good. The species was stronger, more aggressive, unwilling to negotiate.
"We cannot win a direct conflict,"
one delegate said. "Then we abandon the station," another replied. And everyone there? Silence. Elias spoke quietly. "Who's stationed there?" A list appeared. Humans were among them. Engineers, medics, traders, and others, species that had chosen to live and work alongside humans. Kirthala watched from the observation tier, her hands clenched. The chair looked at Elias.
"We are not asking you to volunteer."
I know, Elias said.
"But?" He met their gaze. "But I'm going anyway." "You have no authority," a delegate snapped. "I don't need it. You will provoke a war." "No," Elias said. "I'll provoke a conversation." The room erupted.
"This is madness. This proves our fears. You cannot allow this."
The chair raised a limb.
Enough. They turned to Elias. If you go as yourself. Not as a representative, not as a symbol.
Elias nodded. That's all I've ever been.
Preparations began quietly. A small ship. No weapons. No escort. Just Elias and a crew who volunteered without being asked. Kurthala stood in the hangar when he arrived. He stopped when he saw her. "You came?" he said. "Yes." They stood in silence for a moment.
"I didn't want to put anyone in danger," he said.
"You did not,"
she replied.
"You revealed who would stand." He smiled faintly. "You don't have to come. I know." She stepped onto the ship. The journey was tense but uneventful. When they reached the frontier station, they found it occupied, but not destroyed. Armed patrols watched the docks. Elias walked down the ramp alone. Weapons tracked him. He raised his hands. "I'm here to talk," he said simply. The occupying commander approached, amused. "You are unarmed? Yes. You are human? Yes. You are brave or foolish? Probably both." The commander studied him. "Why are you here?" Elias gestured behind him, where different species stood together on the ramp. "Because these people matter to me, and I matter to them." "That is not how power works," the commander said. Elias nodded. "I know. That's how we work," the commander laughed. "You expect mercy?" "No," Elias said. "I expect choice." Behind him, others stepped forward. Not threatening, not shouting. Standing. The commander's smile faded. These beings were not ordered. They were not afraid. They were united without hierarchy. Something about that unsettled him. Negotiations lasted hours, then days. No shots were fired. In the end, the occupying force withdrew, not because they were defeated, but because the cost of staying became uncertain. Back on Helios 9, the news spread fast. The council watched the footage again and again. No command. No dominance. Just presence. Kurthala stood beside Elias when they returned. This time, no one asked her to step back. The chair addressed the assembly. We were wrong. Silence followed. Humanity is not a destabilizing force. It is a connective one. They turned to Elias. "You do not conquer. You do not rule." Elias shook his head. "We just show up." The chair nodded. "And others choose to stand with you." New protocols were issued. Not restrictions. Guidelines. Respect human social gravity.
Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not assume control where none exists.
Living arrangements were reopened. Choice returned. Elias moved back into shared quarters, this time by request. Kurthala stood in the room once more, looking around. "May I adjust the lighting?" she asked. Elias smiled. "Sure." She made a small change. Just one, not because she had to, because she was invited. Helios 9 continued its work, changed but stronger. Across the galaxy, the story spread. Humans were not the strongest, they were not the loudest, but when humans stood somewhere, others found it easier to stand too. And that, the galaxy learned, was a power no force could easily break. Far from Earth among the stars, humanity found its place. Not above, not below, but among. And the universe adjusted itself around that simple, dangerous truth.